noticed that City Councilwoman Ellich has placed the ministers at the end of the agenda. This is when the TV cameras usually pack up, because what ministers usually say is impractical. And I want to say at the outset that this legislation is practical. And if any religion or spiritual community is not addressing practical issues, it is a moribund religion on the verge of death. And it must be addressed. I would say this, that our congregation was deeply affected, as I'm sure every congregation, synagogue, temple, and mosque was deeply affected by the events of January 8th. Pam Simon is an intimate, active member of our church community. She had a bullet right through her torso, and by some amazing miracle, she survived without it touching a single vital organ. Gabe Zimmerman has been a periodic visitor at St. Francis in the foothills. He lost his life there. His father's here today. Gabrielle Giffords has been an attendee at St. Francis in the foothills. And one of Gabby's interns from Georgetown is an active member of St. Francis in the foothills. So this hits us deeply, as it hits all of you deeply. So I want to say at the outset, and briefly, I'm very much in favor of this legislation, as all of us should be, as practical human beings and as spiritual beings, no matter what our religious tradition. But I'll also take this a step further beyond this legislation. And it's my responsibility as a priest, a pastor, and a spiritual leader, and a biblical scholar to take it beyond this. In every religious tradition, there is something that is directed toward what in the Hebrew tradition is in the Ten Commandments, which says, "Thou shalt not kill." There are signs here that says, "Gun saves lives." I'm 69 years old. I was born during the Second World War. I lived through the Korean War and the Vietnam War and the present conflicts occurring all over our world. And I am aware that guns do kill people. I am also aware in all this time that I am not aware in my life where a gun has prevented or saved a life. And I'm sure you might know of some. There's also another foundational principle in all the major religions of the world, and it's how they define God. There are various definitions of God, but one that we hold in common with all faiths is, directly or indirectly, God is love. God is love. And I'm aware that the opposite of love is not hate, and there's an abundance of that in our society these days. The opposite of love is not hate, it is fear. And we have an abundance of fear in our lives these days. In fact, that's one of the reasons that gun purchases are so high. We're afraid. We're afraid of terrorists. We're afraid of our neighbor. We're afraid of crooks. Fear is a predominant vibration throughout our society today. There's a wonderful scripture in the Christian scriptures. It's in the letter to 1 John, and it says this: "In love there is no room for fear." And then it goes on to say, "Perfect love casts out fear." And that's why they put the religious leaders last. Because you're talking about love, and you go, "Oh my God, he's going airy-fairy woo-woo on us." But love is the foundational principle of the cosmos, and we haven't learned how to do it yet. And when we do learn how to do it, we won't need guns. Thank you.